Hello, bot makers. I hope that you have a good day so far. My name is Sylvain Perron. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BotPress. BotPress, for those that don't know, is an open source conversation AI toolkit for developers and conversation designers. So we give you all the tools. It's an end-to-end platform. We give you all the tools to build a great conversational experience without focusing too much on NLP and all the underlying technology. We want you to be productive and build something great. Today, I'm going to be talking about 10 things, tools and skills that you need as a developer to build a great chatbot. That experience has been based on hundreds of bots that we've built for hundreds of customers. I've tried to keep it short within 20 minutes. And so the first thing that we'll start off with is 4 things that you don't need. And this will be followed by 6 things that I think is crucial for you to understand and to have as a tool to create something great. So without further ado, the 4 non-needs. So for the 4 non-needs, the first one is that you don't need a bot that actually passed the Turing test. And so this is a very common pitfall that we see developers doing. They think about their chatbot as a complete replacement for a human. And actually, this is something counterproductive, and I don't think that it really helps the human. You know, the very basic goal of a bot, if we go back to the foundation, is that you want to scale human conversations, right? So you can do higher volume, you can reduce for the user the wait time, reduce the latency. You want to offer a service across a wider time range, and you want those conversations, you want your customers to be able to talk to your company at more places, whatever their channel is. Nowhere in those rules of scaling human conversation is actually about eliminating the humans. I think they are, currently chatbots are really good at, automating a couple of repetitive questions and workflows, but let's not, try to automate everything at once. I'll give you an example. So we have a customer that is called a CISPO, and what they do is they do pre and post operation follow-ups with patients. And BotPress is actually a great fit. They developed a chatbot that 99% of the time, everything is fine with the patient, right? They do a follow-up. The patient says, everything's good. I don't have any side effects, and I don't have any questions. And that's perfectly fine. The chatbot, does its job for those times. But for the 1% of the time that the human has side effects, the last thing you want is for the bot to try to help the patient, right? You want the bot to actually connect you with a real human. And so, this is kind of an extreme use case, but I think it helps to remind you that your bot doesn't have to cover 100% of all the use cases for your customers. Oftentimes it's better to focus on 25% of the use cases or 50% of the use cases and offer a great experience and, hand off the rest to humans when humans are actually better than a robot to do that task. The second thing that you don't want as a developer is a fancy machine learning-based dialogue engine. Actually, if you look at the first couple of days of hiring a customer service rep, you'll learn that they actually have a script and they have very standard procedures on how to help customers. So in a way, the state machine is already determined. It's on paper. So the reps have to follow those rules, those guidelines, right? In order to, offer the best customer service experience. And, if you go with a machine learning based approach, the only thing that you'll be sure is that, the models that will be produced from data probably won't do what you expect them to do. You'll have uncertainty about how your chatbot will behave. And that's a very undesired side effect that you want from your chatbot. You want to actually know exactly what happens, when, and why. And so having certainty in delivering, the conversation as expected by your customer service guidelines is absolutely critical. And so you need you need a way to design your chatbot that will follow these, and that you have absolute certainty that things will happen according to them. The third thing that you don't need as a developer is that perfect giant data set. There is a very common, saying from data scientists that the reason why the chatbot doesn't understand perfectly or that doesn't behave correctly is that they need more data. And I'm here to say that more data isn't necessarily better. In fact, more data can actually make your bot worse. You don't need necessarily more data. You need better data. You need to give in examples the very different ways or means to say something, right? You need diversity in the phrasings, because language models, which is the foundation of any NLP engine, any modern NLP engine, language models are built specifically to generalize understanding, right? So you don't need to do data augmentation. You don't need to use all the obvious synonyms, and you don't need to introduce noise such as typos and fluff utterances in your data set. The only thing that this will do is actually make your chatbot overfit on your samples and make its understanding worse, right? And in theory, the better the engine is, the less examples you need to create that understanding generalization. And so, let's start building better data sets, but not bigger data sets. The fourth and last thing that you don't need as a developer is a PhD in NLP or a team that focuses on NLP entirely. Because a team that focuses on this, it's true, it will give you in average maybe a 1 to 5% improvement over a vanilla machine learning model, but it will slow you down to market by many months, and it will also diverge your team's focus on actually building a good customer experience. And so what I find being most productive is to actually spend as much time on the experience, spend as much time on actually creating a really good data set, and not care about too much about the NLP models behind it, because the more that you spend time in it, the less you're able to actually upgrade to the latest models and just follow the baseline improvements, which leads me to the 6 things that you need as a developer. And the first one is a forward-looking NLP engine. And so, we've seen in the last couple of years the rise of the transformer-based models, but also what happened, behind the scene is tremendous improvements in information retrieval, question answering, and natural language generation, to the point that, these technologies would be extremely useful for chatbots, but the engines, the NLP engines that we all know of, weren't built for those tasks. And so what will happen to most people that have built chatbots, they will have to rebuild their entire data set and NLP pipeline in order to adapt to those new breakthrough models, right? And so it would be something very important to do today if you're starting a new chatbot. Try to look for an engine that is forward-looking so that you don't have to rebuild everything the day that those breakthrough comes to market. The second thing that you need to be a good chatbot developer is to learn the craft and be experience focused. I like the analogy of the gaming industry, because if you give the best developer that you give it the Unreal Engine or Unity, and you tell that person, go and build me a great game, you have 2 weeks. Well, guess what? The game is probably going to be crap, because if you don't know what what makes a good game, and if you've never built one before, then just being a good developer doesn't make you any good game developer. And the same thing is true for conversation design, right? If you don't know anything about what makes a good conversation, you're not going to be able to do so. I found that the best developer, the best type of developer to actually build a good chatbot, in most cases, the one that actually doesn't have that big of a learning curve, are the mobile developers or the web developers, because they are already really experience focused. They're already used to caring about the customer flow and their overall experience, right? And so that is a great place to start, is to learn the craft, be experience focused. If you're already a front-end developer, then you're probably already halfway there. The third thing you need is a visual interface. And I know for most developers, it's kind of cringy when they hear that, but hear me out. At the beginning, when you create a bot, you're all alone. You're a developer, you do everything yourself, right? And then, the scope expands, and then you go in production, right? And so you're starting to involve more and more people, especially non-technical people, right? You'll have content writers, you'll have conversation designers, you'll have business line, and everybody's going to need, to touch somehow the project and to change it in some ways. If everything belongs in code, you're going to be extremely pressured to do everything yourself and to do work that is actually boring to you. And so what you want instead is to have that visual interface where people, that are not technical, but technically good at content and technically good at conversation design, you want them to be able to do that work themselves through a visual interface. This will save you a lot of time and headaches in the future. The fourth thing that you need to do is actually write code, hooks, custom code, integrations. Now, I know you're a developer, so I don't need to convince you that writing codes is actually cool and exciting, but something that I often hear is like, we're this no code or low code solution. You don't need to write any code to build a great chatbot. And that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, to build something personalized, you need, by definition, to write code, right? To get customer information from the CRM, to integrate with your ticketing system, to get updates, order status from your internal stack. You need to know if somebody's traveling, his credit card has been frozen, right? This won't magically appear in your no code, conversation designer. It's something you have to create purposely using code and integrations and API calls. Now, I'm going to say there's probably a direct proportional relationship between the amount of code that you write and the level of personalization of your chatbot. And there's definitely a direct correlation between personalization and good user experience. And so it's fair to say that the more code you write, the more personalized you get and the better customer experience. The fifth thing you need are channels that has good coverage. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. When you start creating a bot, normally you would start building for one specific channel, right? And so you would build the experience with that only channel in mind. But now, the scope will grow. And so all of a sudden you'll need to handle many more channels like Telegram and SMS. And you'll find out that the type of messages that worked on Telegram and Slack, they don't work on SMS, right? So something really nice to have out of the box from your tool to save time as a developer and prevent you from a lot of headaches is actually a down rendering engine. What I mean by that, for example, dropdowns exist in Slack, but they don't exist in SMS. So do you have to create a completely different bot, or can the conversation engine actually handle that for you and create what we call a down render message? So instead of showing a drop down, it will automatically transform your drop down into a list of options with numbers, for SMS. And if RCS is supported, then, there's a richer type of message that you can use. Instead of text, you can use buttons and you can use cards and so on. And so what you would expect as a dev is a good message rendering engine that handles all of those edge cases for you. Now, the sixth and final thing you need to build a good chatbot is continuous improvement tooling. The good practice of regular software applies to chatbot in the sense that you need to be able to identify what works, what doesn't work, and you need to be able to test if you break something. Now, this is specifically important for bots because a chatbot's first day is going to be its worst day. And so because users will say things that you couldn't anticipate the day that you built it. And so you need tools to be able to extract those things that it didn't understand and to incorporate it in a way that you don't break what was already in there. And so regression testing and unit testing is extremely important. And you also need the tool to be able to tell if the bot actually brings value to your stakeholders, right? So identify the ROI and what is the potential for increasing the scope of the bot and yielding even a better customer experience. All these things you should expect from a good conversation engine. Now, that is the last one of my tips for today. Obviously, there's much more. We've acquired that knowledge through building a lot of chatbots for a lot of customers. If you happen to be an enterprise and you're just starting out with your conversation design journey, drop us a line. We can provide advice, and obviously we have a tool that fulfills all the needs and the don't needs that I've discussed today. In any case, if you have any question, comments, you can drop me an email at sylvain.perron@botpress.com, or you can also add me on LinkedIn and drop me an email. I'll try to be responsive. Anyways, have a good rest of the event, and I'll see you around.